How are you doing?
I am good. I am good. I am.
Yes.
I'm excited. I'm excited about this second episode.
Yeah, very excited. And another interesting week of a lot of things happening on diversity and inclusion.
There's always stuff happening on diversity and inclusion.
Oh,
It is what it is, right? It is what it is. We
it
are in an
is.
evolutionary jump, so
Yeah, yeah,
stuff is heating up fast, right? It's
yeah.
heating up fast. Where we want to take this
I mean,
today? Why are you waving at the camera? Why did you just
I
do
know.
it?
So that was my just learning my angles. My.
He ain't used to being in the camera. I mean, he good looking, but he ain't used to it.
I'm
We'll
just.
forgive him. For those of you listening, two fingers went across the screen where right into his camera lens, and we got to see his fingers very close and personal.
Clearly not a pro. Clearly not a pro in front of the camera, but okay, I'll learn. I'll learn it. So yeah,
We're
a
learning.
lot going on this week. My God, the states, the capital is under siege. What a crazy week.
I know.
Yeah.
What was that? The 6th of January, where
Mm.
those insurrectionists
Yeah.
stormed the Capitol building,
Yeah.
allegedly heated up by Donald Trump.
Definitely seems so. And
Woo!
I mean, interesting now. I think that a lot of these, of course, he is probably in a way been trying to disenfranchise himself a bit from it. Let's be honest, he always speaks in two tongues. He's always like, oh yeah, but maybe not, but yeah, but maybe, that way is very, you can't really catch. It's like catching a slippery fish kind of right. And it's very, very smart in that sense. He can kind of insinuate people to do something, but then not claim that he really mean it. Right. But now you're seeing so many of these who've been here at these at the Capitol, they're coming back, but it's like, and they're like publicly stating, but Trump told us so.
Let me share with you. And we gotta call out foolery. We can call out foolery on this channel. We can call it out. This morning, I was doing my little research or whatever, and I stumbled upon CBS in Dallas, Fort Worth, in Texas. And there was a woman there, a blonde woman. She was attractive lady, and she was clearly standing outside of her front door, because I'm very familiar, because my sister lives down that way, and the homes are beautiful. My sister lives in a beautiful home, my sister Amanda, and the homes are beautiful. So the money. So you're looking. So get the picture. Beautiful front facade of the building in Texas. And she says, her president told her, she goes, I flew out I think she said her president told her to fly out to go there. I don't know if President Trump said to fly out. I'm beginning to think people are a little bit hearing some stuff in their head.
Yeah.
Or believing like he would support that. And she was asking for my president to pardon me.
Yeah.
So I don't lose my business. I'm a realtor, so I don't lose my business. I want him to pardon me. And I thought, right.
This is, I mean, I read that story as well. I followed her, and I get a bit surprised, because there's something about the kind of the information tunnel that some of these people are living in that are really concerning me, because I think that we all carry a responsibility of checking sources, of making sure that we kind of try and diversify our information stream. There's so many times that we get ourselves
and I check other friends. It's important. It's to fact check.
Yeah, because we cannot just rely on things what we are being fed. And the way she speaks, I mean, a woman that has, it seems like she has a life going for her, she has a business going, to feel so compelled to take, first of all, I think it's, the whole fact of like, oh, I'm jumping on a private jet. Doing COVID.
Jumping on a private jet, or is she on service?
No, she hired a
The
private.
Airbus
She
something
hired a
80.
private jet with her girlfriends, and they all went up there.
Oh, is this
And
right?
yeah, no,
No. Hold on. Is this what you? Is it the same lady? The lady with the
yeah,
blonde hair, like your hair color?
the realtor,
Shut.
yeah. Yes, they flew on a private jet. I mean, it tells you something about the commitment to follow his agenda, but it's surprising that there's no sense check along the way saying like, listen, is this, I mean, and she wrote, the last thing she posted when she went into the Capitol was, this is the best day of my life. You know, the embodiment of that whole what
Rally,
can you say,
rally.
election fraud and rally and all these fake news that's been coming is just right there, right? And they felt so compelled to do this, not thinking what are the consequences of what I'm doing. And it's a lack of self-reflection, self-criticism,
Yes.
to the news that you get, to the things you believe in, to the actions that you do. And
I love it. You said it. There's no sense checking. We've got to sense check. You know,
yeah,
there are some very good meaning people in terms of they're putting their, like, spending a lot of time, quality time, feeding people stuff that they've researched. The problem with that is you're always going to find a bias. Whatever your bias is, you're going to naturally seek out that. The unconscious bias, I'm going to take it there with my background in psychoanalysis. It's like the unconscious is going to help you find stuff, your prejudices or whatever that is, deep seated in there. It could be a left, a right, a liberal. It could be whoever. We are all subject to this. But the problem with people just giving stuff is when you don't do your due diligence, you don't, number one, engage your critical thinking. And then the next thing, you need to look for documents. You need to look at stuff that refutes what you're looking at. You've got to be able to look at, is this refutable? So do your research. What is the rush about getting, like, just having some likes, having some views, and jumping on here on YouTube or something and disseminating some half-learned information? I mean, something's wrong when you are just doing that.
Yeah.
You follow me? It's got to be about that critical thinking. It's got to be about going deeper. Because you're responsible. You're responsible. She's responsible for her lack of sense checking and fact checking.
Yeah, completely.
And she got her butt on a private plane. I can't with her. I don't feel sorry for you. I don't.
No. There's no reason. She knew if she had done a little bit of reflection, she would know that this is illegal. She's engaging in, she's on the wrong side of right and wrong in this. And, no, I can't feel sorry. I can feel sorry for people allowing themselves to be deluded to the extent that they have, that they are not able, to look beyond and kind of see what is really happening. I think it's maybe it's also easier for us who are not in the States right now and not as, influenced. We maybe get a little bit more of a diverse insight from the outside, kind of looking into the States. But it's I don't know. It's sad to see this how they're able to really manipulate people in that sense to truly believe. 40% of the Republican Party believes that there was election fraud, widespread election fraud. 40%.
Who wrote that? Who did that? I'd wonder. Somebody did some kind of a poll.
So I heard it on CNN this morning.
Oh, wow. Somebody's done a poll, a data-driven poll.
Yeah.
And have come up with that number.
You know what? I can look it up. I can look it up right now while we speak. 40%. Yeah, let me look it up.
That's so sad.
Yeah.
That's so sad. That, I mean, You know, the good thing is when I was hearing all this, I thought, hey, there's always the potential for fraud, right?
Yeah.
I didn't think that that wasn't possible, and I believed, yeah, that's possible. People talk about how the election was rigged, the Russians and
Mm.
everything. Of course, I'm thinking, hey, there could be some fraud. I
Yeah.
was sent some information about I don't know, somebody saying about the types of machines that were being used. Now, I didn't do my due diligence on that, so I'm not even going to repeat anything that I heard. But what I did note was that it made me think. It made me think, hey, there is a possibility that this could be defrauded. However,
Mm.
when you defraud something, it's not very blatant. I've never defrauded anybody, but maybe when I was younger, I did want to like a little, maybe say a little sneaky lie or something. As an adult, not even as a kid, right? You're not going to go big. You're not going to go big. What he is insinuating, and if you hear the numbers, they're talking like 5,000 votes here, 3,000 votes here. It's like, get out of here. And it's not covering the whole electoral vote. It's like, and then they lost Georgia. It's just like, come on, dude.
Exactly.
I
I mean,
don't
there's a
care
grasping for it, and
about
this is
politics.
also this. Yeah, I agree, and this is also the shame when you have, you know, the way that the conversation is at the moment. You have these people who would then say, okay, yes, so there was an insinuation that there were, you know, a lot of dead people who had voted, you know, some wise, right?
That's been on
And
the
they would
news.
call again widespread. Now I think Biden won with about what 7 million almost. I don't think that there. So
They,
this is where we need to put it in context. How many people actually voted in this election? And then it turns out that there were 2 people who were dead who had voted. This must be still percentage-wise be estimated to be a very safe and secure election. And it's a shame that people are dragging out something that would equals to 0.0001% of the votes and then making that a big story and creating distrust in the voting system that are leading to this. Now, I just looked it up here
do you
on
think
Vox
that,
poll.
okay, go ahead.
Sorry, I just wanted to say here, actually 72% of likely Republican voters said they continue to question the presidential election results. That's a Vox poll.
Yeah.
72%.
But so then out of that, so what'd you say?
It was
72%.
72% of likely
Yeah,
Republican
out of the
voters.
likely Republican voters, out of likely Republican voters. So,
And it's still is this is taken after
but I wonder what the percentage. Go ahead.
yeah, 72% of the Republican voters, likely Republican voters. 7-2. That is
Yeah,
a crazy number.
I know. So
Even after
imagine
this
even
was
if
taken
20%
after
of
the
those.
sorry?
Go ahead. When was it taken?
I said this one was taken this one is taken after in the days after the Capitol. Is taken between the 8th and the 11th of January. They polled it, and 72% of likely Republican voters says they continue to question the presidential
Wow.
election result. I mean, I don't
And
know.
you know what? Listen. You know, you can question it. You can question it. Yes, question the election. Everyone has the right to question to something. But do
Mm,
you then have the right to hold up this election? Yeah, there's a right to say, hey, no, we don't believe this, we don't accept it, we can go to court. All of that is what it is. But it does not give you the right to go to the Capitol building, destroy it, get
no,
people killed,
no,
breaking and entering,
yeah,
destroying public property. I mean, these are just the little things, inciting acts of violence or terrorism,
yeah,
domestic terrorism.
yeah,
It does not
completely.
give you the right. You can be upset, you can vote, and you can demand a revote, but you do not go do what they did, with the intent, some of them with the intent, which they're now saying in the press, that it was, what's the word I'm looking for? It was put together, it was designed. Somebody came up, they were planned to do this because there were bombs found, pipe bombs and things, right? Found. So you lost your right. You lost your right to ask for a pardon. You could have killed 6 people were dead.
Yeah.
This woman playing with, she takes no responsibility. She needs to take responsibility that, because your presence, as well as everybody else's presence, caused a loss of life. If this was the Green Party, I would still stand by the same thing. If this was the Democrats, I would still stand by the same things. You know, whoever, I'm gonna Liberal Party, I am gonna stand by that, because I don't believe in a party, you know. I believe, though, that since we do have that, can we just be civil to each other? Can we make it work? You can be plotting and planning your next, hopefully, election, but in the meantime, we got a job to do.
It also says in this Vox poll that 49 of Republicans say they have doubts about the election outcomes, and the 42% of the independents, they do not trust the election results as well. So I mean, it just shows that it really, it just shows that really this is that the message that is being driven about this election fraud, it really materializes in people's disbelief in the trust of a fair election, which then that has an effect on the democracy and the whole institution of democracy. And I'm so surprised to see so many of the American representatives aiding this message.
It's like aiding and abetting, right? Aiding and abetting. So this is interesting. I find it interesting as well. I just think, it's been quiet. I haven't checked the news this morning. Well, I did check the news, and nothing crazy has happened. And today we're at the 17th rather, of January. So it does definitely remain to be seen how things are going to go, how these people are going to be prosecuted, right?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, when you go down below the surface, you guys, what we're really kind of seeing here, we're seeing that there are groups of people, or a group or whatever people, who don't believe in fairness for all, they don't believe in equality, because these issues are issues that say will affect people of color, will affect women's rights, will affect LGBTQ communities' rights in America, right? And see, because they stand and as a beacon of democracy, this has a rippled effect around the world. And that's what's upsetting, right? We don't stand with any political party on this channel, but what we do see is what we see.
Yeah.
And that's important to note. So when you hear us talking about stuff, we're seeing the links of what that means for everybody,
Completely. I mean, it's interesting when we looked at this, how this whole thing was handled. I was, the image of this guy who broke into the Capitol, sat on Nancy Pelosi's in her office with feet up on her desk.
No, but I mean, go ahead.
I was like, that, if you don't understand white privilege, that right there explains white privilege, because I don't believe any black man would have been alive today if that would have been a black man doing that.
They would have gang rushed his home and shot him. They would have gang rushed his home. Like, they got that guy and they took him off to jail. And all doing that very nice and well and good. Nobody getting shot. Nobody died today when he got picked up, right? No. Like Ice Cube, it was a good day. Anyway, they didn't do that to him. They just took
if you saw the comparison, I think that a lot of people picked up on this.
And
They'll
you
come.
know what? Did I say this to you the other day? Did I say that it's very interesting how um, how we're able to basically see what's going on. The world can see what's going on when it comes to the lack of inclusion in the
Mm,
West. You know, it
mm,
really does exist. You know,
yeah,
lack of equity. You
yeah.
know, it's and people are seeing it, and it's so interesting that people are just putting the dots there for themselves. Although I will
Mm,
say, former former defense secretary named William Cohen, on that
mm,
evening on the 6th, I watched him on CNBC, and he put it out there as things were going. He said, you can see now, and I'm going to paraphrase here, you can see how much racism is in America, because if that would have been somebody from Black Lives Matter, it wouldn't have been this easy. They wouldn't have been able to just walk out of the Capitol building. I mean, these people were
mm,
walking out of the Capitol building waving. I don't know if it's that particular blonde lady, but it was definitely a blonde lady waving her
mm.
hand at the camera like they'd just been on a tour of the Capitol. And the cameras are there like, oh my God, the Capitol was great.
I
No, you just
know.
destroyed the Capitol.
It's crazy. And I think that, and why does this matter in this context? I think it matters because this is the diversity is about, and inclusion is about everybody feeling their equal worth in a
Yes,
way.
yes,
And when you see that, a white guy storming with rioters into the Capitol, chasing the representatives, the vice president in there, trying to get him. And the more and more information we get out, I think the more
oh, were they chasing someone? Were they
dangerous it has
chasing?
been. You
Excuse
know,
me. Have you seen that or read that they were chasing one of the House of Representatives?
they were looking for Mike Pence. They were 1 minute
Oh,
from
I saw
catching
they were
Mike Pence.
hunting
Yeah,
him. They were hunting him down.
they were hunting him down because he certified the election, as he should.
That's just his job. And the news was saying, these people are ridiculous because they don't even know the rule. If there was nothing Mike Pence could do, Mike Pence is just a stand boy. He's just,
Exactly.
he's just standing next to the president. And that's just a little job. He just
It's a
certifies and just reads
ceremonial
it out,
role.
certifies.
Yeah, it's a
There's
ceremonial role.
nothing
And
he
you
can
see,
say. I say no. Oh,
no, and
it's
exactly
just,
like they said in that space, and sorry for making a lot about American politics right now, but it's very interesting because a lot of things happening for there, and I think it's so like a groundbreaking moment, right? But and the whole point of saying, if you don't
yes.
certify, if you wouldn't have certified this election, these electoral votes, it would be the same as saying that the Congress at any point of time could just decide to overturn any election fair and free,
Right, right.
with a simple majority in the House. That means that you could just rule out the people's vote. If it didn't suit you, it was put
Yeah,
proceedings for another, for and then you in practicality dissolve democracy.
yeah,
So
yeah.
of course this has to go through like it was, but I think when we see that, and I understand when, especially in when we talk diversity and inclusion on the ethnicity and racial part. Of
Yeah.
course, we're standing there. If you're coming, I'm sure you can relate to that, and seeing that guy going in, sitting with his feet up in Nancy Pelosi's
Oh,
desk. I mean, and then we're
all of
seeing
them.
the Black Lives Matter protest. We saw how they guarded the Lincoln Memorial. It looked like an episode out of The Handmaid's Tale. Like
Mm.
it was military everywhere,
Oh, yeah,
and
yes,
it builds a narrative that this is more dangerous.
yeah,
It builds
yeah.
it helps build the narrative about how we should be afraid of the black movement and stuff,
Mm.
and it is quite frankly really disgusting to see.
Well, you know what? Now anyone that was white and had doubts, anyone that was white and that had doubts, they saw it for themselves. Anybody that has intelligence saw it for themselves. Anybody who thought that that was cool, that was amazing, oh yeah, it's standing for democracy, is being bamboozled, you know. But you know, what is right is what is right. It's this, we are now, you know, in the midst of the you know, that third third decade in the 21st century, and it's like we are in here. It's like we're in the 20 something, you know, but it's still that feeling marching into the third decade, I should say. But nevertheless, everything is being exposed. So let me go here. When Trump was in office, he said he was going to drain the swamp. As he was going into office, he was saying he was going to drain the swamp, you know, and everything like that. And I think, well done. You drain the swamp, because what happens when you drain the swamp? You see what's in the swamp.
Exactly.
Right? So you expose what's in the swamp. And so what he did was he exposed these racists that are amongst us in society, which are a part of systems, right? And these people, you know, we had people that were actually part of politics. There was a man there, he got arrested, he was in politics, I can't remember what state. We had a lot of ex-military people, you know, so you had a lot of people, this realtor, you know, I mean, you start thinking about the mindset of these types of people. Well, we got to see that, and you got to see that we have a lot of cleaning up to do. That happen. I think it will, you know, slowly but surely, those people, I think, are becoming awake. Even the idiots that followed him, some of them said, okay, that's enough. They probably were like, I question it. They were questioning it, but they were dedicated to the party.
Yeah.
Then at the end, they were like, F this, I'm out.
Yeah.
Like letting you know, I don't back this guy. Yeah, maybe it's too little too late, but it's still, I think, on time. Because they're, you know, some people may take a little bit longer to cut from a party or to say this is wrong. And so those that finally said, hey, this is BS. Now that, and it's a shame, because it's like, now it can happen to me. So, you know, my white skin. So we know what that is, right? We know that, but it highlights, it puts a lens on difference, the difference that has divided us. And so I'm really hoping, Lau, you know, the next 3-5 years that we see significant transformation and change in America. That's positive. Like this week, I don't want to believe. I don't want to believe anything's going to happen.
I think these last 4 years have been a bit of a dark age in terms of human rights and diversity and equality, and anyone who believes in equal rights, I think have felt that the last 4 years couldn't really end fast enough. And I think I'm really looking forward to what lies in the future. I think hopefully, you know, we can get back to really, you know, being progressive and moving this agenda in the right direction again. But there is definitely a setback. There's been. I'm curious to understand more about how you approach, like how you see these things that are happening. You are living with a lot, now we're talking a lot about, you know, diversity and inclusion in terms of, you know, the racial aspect here. And I'm curious to understand a little bit more about your story and your, you know, your life experience, how you've felt it on your body, you know, this divide that has been in with the racial division.
Yeah. Well, I lived here for 20 plus years in the UK. So, but my prior years in America, you know, as someone, a fully functioning human being, you know, and I would say that fully functioning human being, you know, I got a real slap in the face as a little girl, a few incidents, which was one that I remember. We were part of me and my sister had found this church, this Bible school. Maybe one of her friends told her about this Bible school at a local little church on the way home from school. And she thought, yeah, she told our parents, it sounds really good. I want to know Jesus and whatever else she probably said as a little kid. And
Mm-hmm.
I was in it for the Twinkies because they always had treats and stuff for the kids. We were cute little kids, you know, they probably didn't have a problem with us, you know, how we looked. And so we had a good time. So I guess maybe, I don't know if the church said you should bring your parents, or we thought we'd bring the parents, but we all went as a family. We started attending this little church. I don't know how long we were attending this church, you know, time I can't recall, but it must have been a good little while for us to consider, my parents to consider, my mother and my stepfather rather, to consider joining this church. So, you know, was it 6 weeks? I probably think you're showing up for about 6 weeks. You're looking for a church home. We had just moved into Carson, California, California from South Central, Los Angeles. So yeah, they, I guess, asked if we can get voted in. Now, I remember my parents talking about that vote and how that vote was coming on that particular Sunday. And so we went over to the church, and at a certain point, we were all told to bow our heads. We were going to pray. They were going to vote for whether or not my stepfather, his last name is Hill, so whether the Hill family would, if they wanted to have us in the church. There was a vote, and we got voted against.
No.
That was the first time I knew, it was probably the second time, but the real first time I knew there was a divide, and that I was seen to be different. I was seen to be not good enough. Not even good enough for the church, right? This particular church.
Was it a predominantly white church?
Yes. Or? Oh yeah. I think we would have been the only Black people, right? So that was my first kind of touch with one of my where I knew that there was a difference, that I was seen different, we were seen differently.
How did your parents react? Do you remember?
Angry. That's what I can remember, just angry. And then we did wind up finding a fantastic mega church that we became members of. I liked some of that church. I liked going there. It was one of those American mega churches. You know, we had a dome on the site built in Los Angeles. I say we because everybody that contributed to that church helped fund the building, and it was 10,000. I think it was it a 10,000 seater or 5,000 seater? Something very big. No, we had 10,000 members. I think it was like a 3,000 seater or 5,000 seater. It was massive. It was absolutely incredible. And you were at basically a sports, indoor sports stadium. Right? Every year they had to rent out, they didn't have to, but they chose to rent out one of the domes in Los Angeles, for Easter service, because that's a very big service in the Christian faith, right? The resurrection and everything. He didn't want to do that. So he thought, let's build our own, be self-sufficient, right? So anyway, we went into a Black church where that was what it was, right? It was, you could see yourself. It was fine.
Yeah. But it's a disheartening story in that sense, of course, that it's actually a shot at trying to blend, to bridge the divide, and then to experience that you get voted out. Were they like, do you know, like, so that you had to be voted in? I don't understand.
To become a member.
To become a member of the church.
Yeah.
And they would just vote no. It seems like, why would people? I thought that, Christianity was supposed to be all inclusive, but
all inclusive. But exactly, it's not. It's not all inclusive when it's managed by racists.
No.
I mean, like that church was, I think to myself, was the so here's that, like, diversity and inclusion. There's the person within the organization that would like to see transformation, so then they put that family up for a vote. But then there is the group that says no. It's like the House of Congress, I guess, right?
Yeah.
It's that same thing, voting, right? And and people put their hands up, and I remember I was looking around the room because I was a little kid, right, as you do your peeking, but that was different in America. That was in the 70s. That was being a kid in the 70s and seeing that kind of thing play out. You're different. And
how has that affected you later on in life? Like, have you had, like, how is that?
Later on in life, I think it's in life from that period on, right? It's like, how did that affect, that's the question, I should say. How did that affect me as a child? I began to I think there was probably a lot of things that came to play. I would say it was I began to not trust people, white people that were nice to me, because then they could turn against me and not want me around. So I couldn't trust white people. Of course, as I grew up, there was always nice teachers and things like that who happened to be white, but I could not trust white people. And there were other incidences, which I'll say for another time, but definitely when you start off relationships like that with other people, we call it the other in psychoanalysis, et cetera, psychology. When you start off a relationship based on distrust, because that's what it is, right?
Yeah.
Then it's going to be like that. I think it's going to be difficult to change minds. And so when we think about the history of Black people, and when it comes to treatment, why wouldn't one generalize? Why wouldn't one be very wary?
Yeah, I read that there's a huge distrust to the vaccine, for instance, among the Black community, unfortunately.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, because that's the Tuskegee experiment, wasn't it, in Tuskegee?
I don't know.
Where you know about that? Okay, so there was an experiment that, was it the military or was just the government medical? They were trying to see the effects that syphilis would have on human subjects, right? So of course, they didn't say, hey, we want to see the effects, we'll give you some money. Instead, they said they were going to give them a vaccination of some sort. They were going to do some little tests, and they offered money for this. They were not, they didn't tell them what it was for. It was like a vaccine for something. Well, what wound up happening is these poor men, they were hit with syphilis, and they weren't giving any type of, it doesn't seem like they were giving any types of antibiotics. They wanted to see what the effects were, right? So see how dark and sinister and bizarre and twisted that is when you're considering doing that to another human being.
Yeah.
Right. And this was noted that the government or what have you was behind this experiment. Some very, and even if it wasn't direct government, you're talking about government bodies even within, say, a state. Right. So when we think of government, don't just think of the top. We think of all layers of government. Right.
Yeah.
And so this is what happened. And so these poor men, they were ill. Syphilis gives you bumps, and it messes with your mind, messes up with your brain. I mean, it's a real destructive, horrendous, painful, sexually transmitted disease, which they injected into these men who had no clue what was going on. And so, immediately immediately they would have, some guys would have been with their partners, their wives, their girlfriends, would have been intimate with them. If they were gay, their guy friends, intimate with them, and then they would have given them the disease, right? So when you think of the layers of deceit, and people were dying from that disease for a very long time, and I'd have to look at more research on it, but you better believe people died. And I don't want to say the wrong ending in terms of the conclusion, lawsuits and things like that, but basically what happened is that we can't forget that.
No, of course not.
Now, and then when you start telling us that we've got a vaccine we've just made. And in America, and I watched it myself, they said we want Black people to take it first. It was Black people and people of color, that community, to have it first. I'm not raising my hand.
No, 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 no.
You know, can you blame us?
No.
Like, why are you putting us in the queue? You never put us first for in socioeconomic situations within the community. You know, you're doing very little. You're putting some in, but you're not doing a lot. But then you want me to jump. You see, start thinking of the thinking.
Yeah, of course.
Like, you ain't done shit for us, and now there's a disease, and you said it has affected us personally. You know, but now your only remedy is you're going to give us a vaccination. No.
Yeah.
And Black people are like, no. Now, that's people's decision. But this is historic, put it in the historical context, right?
Yeah.
You know,
it's a very sinister.
It's human. It's like,
it's crazy to think that these things happened. You know, I think there are more and more, and maybe it also comes in the whole wave of all this Me Too movement. You know, people are calling out. You know, and there's just something about, you know, the way we have been perceiving, you know, other minorities and stuff. It's like, it's a real,
it's a shame. It's a crying shame, as Sade once sang.
Yeah.
There's a crying shame. When I think of crying, you think of that howling cry. You know, someone has lost a loved one, that pain, that deep guttural cry, you know, that's the kind of shame it is that, you know, and this was, are you looking that up? Are you looking at the vaccine of the Tuskegee? I think they were military.
No, I can have a look. But I think that, you know, this also kind of maybe ties back to why for some of us who already have tried on our own skin, being part of a minority, you know, that it seems it's got to be such a weird state of mind that you have if you are a classic white male, right? Because
what do you mean by that?
But you've just had such privileges, and historically you have had such a superior self-reflection about what you can do and what you're entitled to, and I don't know if this is why this is kind of coming up, but why is this, if it's because it's difficult to let go of something you've had and you don't want to see that, but clearly it's sometimes when you have these debates, especially talking, you know, many people don't like to feel that they are white supremacists, but especially when you talk about white privilege, you know, that people get really touchy when you mention it. But then when you start mentioning a few examples, they're like, oh yeah, I see that. There's this unconscious
because
bias.
They just feel affronted first with that logic.
Yeah, you don't feel it when life.
So let me tell you about this. It was 1932. Say again. So it was in 1932. The Public Health Service, working with the Tuskegee Institute, began a study to record the natural history of syphilis in hopes of justifying treatment programs for Blacks. It was called the Tuskegee Study of Untreated Syphilis in the Negro Male.
Yeah, crazy.
In the, you know, we've done enough research. I'm finishing my master's. You've just done your master's. So when you think of the study, the journal articles in Google Scholar, or you go to your university website and you read a journal title, I mean, that was the title, the Tuskegee Study of Untreated Syphilis in the Negro Male. Now, this would have been peer reviewed. So that's when a journal comes out like that. It is peer reviewed, meaning a lot of eyes went on that and they're giving them thumbs up and things like that. And it gets to go out into the public space. And this is what this was allowed to do. It initially involved 600 Black men, 399 with syphilis, and 201 who did not have the disease. Okay, so this is interesting. The study was conducted without the benefit of patients' informed consent ethical issue. Researchers told the men they were being treated for bad blood, a local term used to describe several ailments, including syphilis, anemia, fatigue. In truth, they did not receive the proper treatment needed to cure their illness in exchange for taking part in the study. So they didn't get it. The men received free medical exams, free meals, and burial insurance. Although originally projected to last 6 months, the study, oh, I didn't even know this. Oh my God. Although originally projected to last 6 months, the study actually went on for 40 years. 1932 to 40 years is 1972. Now we just read it. I just read it from myself here on the CDC.gov site. They have to make this out, put this out there because there's so much talk about it. I didn't even have to search. It was just like right there on their page. They have to put it out there because this is what is caused fear. Now that is my lifetime. Okay, that is my lifetime.
Crazy.
Right? So like, you mean you did that in the 70s? You were doing that in the 70s. So men were being, and who knows, did they bring it? I guess it's all men. I mean, it's just horrible.
How do you carry that into these kind of experiences or these stories that are clearly...
And look at that image. He's injecting that Black man. And this is an older Black man. He's clearly, I think for that time, he's definitely in his 40s, you know, probably still a sexually active man, and maybe just did not even have syphilis or some shit. They gave it to them, right? Some might, I don't know. Are they implying that some came in because they had treatments of something? Regardless, they did this to these men for 40 years. In July 17th, an Associated Press story about the Tuskegee study caused a public outcry that led the Assistant Secretary for Health and Scientific Affairs to appoint an ad hoc advisory panel to review the study. The panel had 9 members from the fields of medicine, law, religion, labor, education, health administration, and public affairs. The panel found that the men had agreed freely to be examined and treated. However, there was no evidence that researchers had informed them of the study or its real purpose. In fact, the men had been misled and had not been given all the facts required to provide informed consent. The men were never given adequate treatment for their disease, even when penicillin became the drug of choice for syphilis in 1947. So remember, they started this in 1932. The advisory panel found nothing to show the subjects were ever given the choice of quitting the study, even when this new, highly effective treatment became widely used. You guys can go to, so there was a class action in 74 for the family participants of their family. A class action lawsuit was filed. A $10 million out-of-court settlement was reached. As part of the settlement, the U.S. government promised to give lifetime medical benefits and burial services to all living participants. The Tuskegee Health Benefit Program was established to provide these services. In 75, wives, widows, and offspring were added to the program. It goes on.
Wow.
It goes on.
You know, I'll say this, that I feel we moved on from that because thankfully we're definitely not there. We see that now. We just talked about was, you know, the difference of treatments from these Capitol rioters and then the Black Lives Matter movement. But, you know, it just displays such a sinister approach to other human beings. Like it's unfathomable how you can deliberately.
How did that man feel? All right, sorry.
Yeah, how does it feel? How does it feel knowing that you are injecting someone else? You got to be a very cold-hearted man to do that. It's shocking. How do you carry these stories into today? Like, how do you? It's interesting in terms of, I'm thinking in the context of also a little bit like the Me Too movement. You know, I think it's interesting with the Me Too movement. people are being called out, being judged. Many are losing their jobs and careers and stuff for being called out on Me Too movement of things that have happened many years ago. And I've struggled, and I don't know what I'm really thinking about it, but it's interesting to know what you think about it as well. How do you carry those old experiences and stories and things that happened in a different context? How do you carry them in today without, being able to move on from it in a way, rather than being kept down by them, right? And
yeah, but I hear, and I'm jumping in there because that's such an important thing. But I think, and I know you're not saying this, but I think there is a how do you move on question that's always attached to that. However, we never hear people say, how are you moving on? Should you move? The Jews should move on. No one questions that. No one even says, how do you move on? I never hear people say that, right? It's something that was happening in the 70s still, right?
yeah,
So it's not something that happened in the 40s and it ended or what have you, right?
It's just this a bit, but like where do we accept that we are a species that evolves and becomes better?
I don't know.
But in some ways, I would like us to be able to accept this is the past. We know now this is not right. We have moved on.
In America,
but at the same time, so I just want to finish. The same time, there was a girl yesterday that said something that I felt was interesting. She said, well, people might think that there was a guy in back in Denmark who lost his prominent job after a Me Too case came up 20 years later, But what she said was, we might have matured more, we might know better, or as a society, not accepting as well. But the fact is, it wasn't right back then either. We just allowed it to slip through.
Yeah.
And so it's not that we did it and think it's real, but it was okay back then. Now it's not okay. It wasn't okay back then, but you didn't get called out for it. And I think, yes, that gave some light to that discussion for me. But I also see that, we've all making mistakes back in our past, and we are moving on, hopefully educating ourselves, becoming better persons and stuff. I'm just trying, like, how do we not become also drawn back constantly? Because I think we can keep on finding these horrible stories about from before, both on sex and on race and.
But don't forget, don't forget George Floyd. Don't forget Breonna Taylor. Don't forget.
I can be afraid sometimes that
guns blaring. But that what I'm getting at is that treatment. And we just talked about the vaccination, right? Because that was some kind of vaccination, or so-called, right?
Yeah.
When something is in memory. So now this ends in 72, right? So how many people are being affected? How many lives are lost? How many families are broken when their father can't go out and provide? Right. So this is that 1932. There was no what's the word I'm looking for? Welfare state. Right. No. That came later. So you're destroying people's lives, and then their kids are alive today and their grandchildren are alive today. Yeah. Right. So and just probably grandchildren, right? It depends, right? So they're alive today and everything.
Yeah.
I think that's a very big ask.
Yeah.
And to just say that was 1932, the Tuskegee experiment. I think it again, it downplays what they've done to my Black people. It's like, okay, we should just hang that up. Here's the other point, right? I think that's asking too much. And it's always you're asking for the person that's been done wrong to move on, right?
Yeah.
Right. No, what you have to do is going back to the swamp that has been drained. You need to look and see what's in that swamp, and you need to figure out what you're going to do there. And it's very interesting as a coach, as a coach that works for a brand and a business developer. Some people might look at and say, oh, you have a diversity and inclusion program that my employees, which would be called coachees, which my employees can tap into. So somebody starts having a conversation, and what they think is that diversity and inclusion program is for their people in diverse groups. They think it's for them. They got to learn, right? When in actuality, the swamp analogy and what's in the swamp and how we got to deal with them. So say in an organization is those people that of that dominant group where you have to get in there and have conversation and help them see what's really happening, which the world has become more diverse and people, and it's human rights, and it's just simple stuff. And then we got our business case and everything for diversity and inclusion and blah, 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 right? So you got to train those people as they come into the organization, that dominant group, to create equity within the business for everyone. Because when they clock in, when they have these learning and development programs, when they have all of this stuff reinforcing just the better way to be in life and what the company values stand for, then you come in and you help people see things as just more like human being, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But we've got to get to that point. Now that's me talking about a coaching context in a business, right? A business buying a coaching program. Right? In the real world, though, that takes time. And unfortunately, and I'm going to say it, unfortunately, these fools have baby fools, right? Yeah. They turn them into baby fools. And so the baby fools grow up thinking and taking interjecting all the stuff that they've learned from the grown-up fools that call them mother and dad, their mother and father, and their grandparents, whatever, with this madness, right? And so this becomes this generational jump. It becomes stuff impacted into your unconscious mind. You know what I mean? So we're talking about layers. You know, unconscious bias training is like your first just awareness piece that there's something we all do and blah blah blah, right? But then it's change mindset, things about diversity and inclusion, these coaching things. You know, so there's a lot. I think we're going to get there faster than we've ever gotten before when it comes to equity. I think we're in an evolutionary shift. And I would say, and I think somebody talked about this last time, with Ty, my daughter, she's Generation Z. Generation Z, we talked about this last time. Generation Z, they're more switched on about humanity.
Yeah, much more.
This is for humans' sake.
And accountability. You know? And I think
we'll get there fast.
Yeah, and accountability. And I think that's why I'm asking also, because it seems like in a way, you know, the reason why I asked is about what do we do with experiences and the scars that our race or minority carries with us into the present? What do we do with it? You know, in many ways, we can
some type of healing.
But the way I'm worried that also we can create so. Because things are coming out to light, they're bubbling up the swamp, right? So we're seeing a lot of these things and meeting things that are really, really like the one you just mentioned here. It's just a really horrible case. And my fear sometimes is whether this could help are we actually stoking a divide, a mistrust, or a anger? Because how would you not be angry when you see that this is the way you've been perceived? It will stoke mistrust automatically. But in a way, I feel at the same time, there's just a backlog of accountability, and we can't move on without the accountability. And maybe that's just what we gotta accept, that we need to. But is something that I'm aware of, whether this bringing out all to light, if we are tainting the new generations, we're tainting them
No.
with distrust of the past in a way. That's
Well,
just what I'm,
well,
reflecting.
I think that can't help but happen because it takes a while to change mindsets, as we see for the people, thousands upon thousands of people who could afford to be at the Capitol, that didn't live there, but that could afford. So we've got a lot of work to do. But what I think I'm saying about that Generation Z, that they're so much more switched on that even their liberal kind of people calling them liberal, they're more like human being, right? They're calling that liberal, but it's like they're saying, no, I'm about humanity, about equity among human beings, right?
Exactly.
And I think when you have more of that mindset, that younger mindset coming in, it's the pushback. And so hopefully it just carries on. Voices like you and I. We're having this podcast, we're here, and we're able to bring the conversation up and to and question it and help people think. So I think I'm hopeful, man. As dark as it sounds, what we've just talked about, I'm very hopeful. I'm hopeful. And you know what? On that note, I want to share a good news. I haven't done a good news. This has been a deep conversation.
I think we all need good news these days. So
So this is some good news. Now, have you heard of Sophia Steward?
Not much, but tell me.
Okay. So Sophia Steward is a Black woman. She's a physicist as well. So we got the woman, we got a Black woman, and we got a woman in STEM, right? Okay. So we taking some boxes. Yes, queen. Okay. Now she wrote a book called The Third Eye. Now I've never read the book. Okay. I just learned about the name of the book. So she's written a book called The Third Eye. And The Third Eye is where the Matrix movie 1 and 2 and the Terminator came from. So her name is Sophia Steward. So she is the original writer of these characters and everything like this, right? And I think the whole idea is that because she's a scientist, makes sense when you watch those films. And I can only imagine like the writing of the film, and I want to get her book. Anyways, so what happened to her? So here's the bad thing that happened to her. They stole her work, the film company, whoever these purple people were. I need to know their names too. Maybe you could look up that right quick and see who produced and directed the Matrix 1 and 2 and the Terminator, right? Or the writers of it. I guess maybe the writers took some credit. Whoever the heck it was.
Joe Silver.
Right? Yeah. Him and his crew, they stole that from that woman, and they took all of the credit for being the writers of the Matrix and the Terminator. Well, she was able to prove and have her day in court some years back, and she got paid. And I'm sure she still gets royalties from those films. Now, so the good news is, right, so she got paid, all that stuff is corrected. But the good news is my sister, she has a channel called the Felicia Lockhart Perspective, or the Lockhart Perspective on YouTube. And she is having her come on her channel next Saturday. I will be a moderator on her channel.
Wow.
And I'm super excited. This is a very big guest for my sister. And it's good. My sister's an incredible journalist. She's incredible at speaking, and she's had podcasts and things like that over the years for years. And so she's growing her channel here. And to get Sophia Steward on the channel is super awesome. And I think that's great. And like I said, that's a win for woman, Black woman, and STEM all up in that mix. Miss Sophia Steward is going to be on my sister's channel next week, and I am super excited.
Wow, excited.
Yes.
Excited.
Yes.
That's very well. It's good news. Good news. But yeah, I mean, it's good. She had her day in court and managed to claim. I just looked her up. She's perceived as the mother of Matrix. So yeah.
She is like perceived. No, she is. Right. So, and that's why so you said you're not a big sci-fi film. fan, but I can't believe that. I can't believe you've never seen you need to see The Matrix so you can understand the red and the blue pill.
I know. I know. You know what?
You
But
got to, because
my boyfriend was just very, very shocked yesterday when you heard that I've never done it. So
I
yeah.
just can't with you. I can't with you. So
Yeah.
you have got to see it because it's a fantastic film. So it's 1 and 2. And then when the third film came, everybody was confused, like, what the hell just happened here? Like, the film went on a different direction because they had stole from her. So there was no continuity. So you could clearly see it. And I remember, I'm a huge sci-fi fan.
Yeah,
Huge
okay.
sci-fi fan now. So we didn't get that. But now we know why. And we get to hear, she's agreed to be on my sister's channel for as long as my sister wants her on the channel. So it's going to be really good. I'm going to be excited to do that next Saturday night. I guess it's Sunday, so Saturday night, I'll tell you guys how that went. Real cool.
Shout out to her. Fantastic. Yeah. Great.
Lockhart perspective. Yeah, so that's really, really dope. I think we gotta talk. I know we've been really on this whole political thing, right?
Yeah.
But we do gotta. Today is the 17th. The inauguration is on the 20th.
Yes.
Wednesday. It's gonna, I'm praying that these fools stay their butts at home.
Yeah.
Troublemakers stay their butts at home.
Yeah.
In all of the states.
Yeah. I think when we are recording our next one, it will be a very interesting to see what have happened. And I hope everything goes peacefully and a peaceful transition. It's one of the most important things about the whole democracy is the peaceful transition. And I think it's important for everyone. It's an important part for everyone to come together. And it's if you want to unify, you've got to have to give a little. You have to be able to understand, and you have to be willing to also listen. And I think also maybe these group of people, this is not the majority of America, and they're getting too much airtime.
You're getting too much airtime. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
This has been the problem.
Yeah. It gives the impression that these are 50% of the country. I don't believe that.
You had a high, recorded turnout, but it doesn't really represent the totality, because even those numbers, what, 160, 150 million, something like that, the total number. So that's, we got way more people, double plus that amount of people in America. So not quite truly representative, so I guess the thing is for those of us who don't believe it, because you have to choose. Unfortunately, it is democracy, and you Democrats and the Republicans, you have to choose something. But I think at the end of the day, just choose who your heart tells you is truly about diversity and inclusion. That's what I expect. It's like you can disagree with certain things, but are they going to stand for the people, everyone to benefit, not just the dominant group.
That is something also I want to talk about, but I want to talk about that on the next show. But it's something about the what are there limitations to diversity? I've had some experiences where I've seen that I've seen a few, probably more in the northern region, that is less diverse from an ethnic point of view, that the diversity, I'm conscious about the diversity agenda doesn't become a female agenda only. The feminist movement is a strong pillar in its own right, has been there for a long time, very well established. But I'm seeing some tendency, and I'd love to discuss that on the next time, on how do we ensure that the diversity and inclusion agenda stays diversity inclusion? Because if we start, I've seen people literally come out and say, in the diversity and inclusion agenda, the most important is right. But now but then we're talking against the whole philosophy about what this is. We can't say
it was gender and women, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was gender and generations.
Gender
right? And not gender and generations. I mean,
I would love to see that. If you see
yeah,
that,
I think we should discuss some more on that next time. But that is and because that's and mind you, it was not gender identity, it was gender, and it was generations. And I would say generations, yes. Generations is a basic fundamental challenge for any company that wants to survive past their youngest employee. So I don't think that that's really part of a diversity.
Well, I mean, what do they call it when they kind of cross some of the language people use? It's intersectional. Okay, we got a problem when people's mindset, of course, have bias against someone that's older in the organization. But I guarantee you, if the organization was primarily, say, white, and the older white man, older white woman comes in, they are far more welcome than a Black person, a person of color, an LGBT person, a disabled person. So we really can't, we can see how it intersects, and it can probably move a little bit in there, but I'm not writing about that on a big level, just not. Okay, because older people have always worked in organizations. We just see it more because no longer are we in a what was it called, the industrial era. We are in the digital era. You know what I mean? So it's like, so we've seen where they expected, you know, after 25 years at a company, you get your watch, right? You get your pension. So we're not in that era. You know what I mean? Anymore. So yes, we're seeing more of us going into a new job than you did in the days before, right? It makes sense. But I'm not gonna put old people in that group. I think we need to be aware. We need to be aware.
Exactly. And we need to be
aware. But marginalized groups.
Yeah.
That's not fair.
We can't say, and it is, and that's another also really interesting conversation that we can have is, you know, equal. If you believe in equal rights, you believe in equal rights across the board. You can't say I believe in equal rights for me but not for you. Exactly. Then it's not equal rights. So kind of you know, clears that out. But so that was also why I was conscious about some of these movements I've seen, especially more in the business community, about, because you know, with any business community, you're just like, okay, how do we optimize everything? And I'm seeing also this diversity and inclusion agenda is kind of being put in that same context, where it's like, okay, so what parameters are there on diversity and inclusion? Yes, okay, there are these, I don't know, let's say 10 parameters. Okay, what are the top 3? We're going to focus on those ones. No, this doesn't work, because that's exclusive already, and exclusive for all of those other ones who thought they were part of this movement. So anyway, it's a longer discussion.
Because you about to start us up, and we'll be on what hour? Oh, we've already been over an hour, I think.
Exactly. So I'm just conscious of time, but we'll talk about that next time. I have a lot of interesting stuff on that. I think it's very important that we manage to capture the movement and ensuring that it doesn't become a priority, a top 3 priority movement, because then we are working against the whole what this really is about.
So, we're gonna have some good conversations because we are. What we do want you guys to do is we want you to email us any of your cares, concerns in the diversity and inclusion space. I'm KK. This is loud. It's loud. I should have warned you, right? And this is
wasn't ready
this morning. But we are here every week talking diversity, and inclusion, bringing some light, bringing some joy moments, exciting moments, you know, things that you think we need to know, you need to know, people need to hear. We want to come and just say, hey, look, it's time to start having conversation, real conversation, not just another TED Talk on diversity, but actual two people from the diverse community and coming here and bringing it to you real. Okay, so you don't know everything, and we like stupid questions because sometimes we got stupid questions. So please, stupid questions are welcome. Just be nice in the chat. You want to say
email us on kkandlau@gmail.com. So kkandlau@gmail.com, and also subscribe to our YouTube channels. We really want to create a movement here, so we hope that you'll subscribe. Get your friends to subscribe. The more we get behind us, we'll start, you know, really building a movement and hopefully have open conversations. And hopefully we'll all learn and become better and kinder persons.
Absolutely. I think my daughter just dropped something. Anyway,
time to go check on her.
It's been fun, and I'm gonna go ahead and stop the recording.
Thank you.
And you can stay here, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see, where do I stop the recording? Okay, cool. Stop cloud recording. After stopping, you'll receive an email notification when the cloud recording is ready. Okay, I'm gonna click.